All right, so for those of you who are new or newer, it's going to be a much different service than you're used to. And if you're a first-time visitor, I'm blind, so I have no idea who's here, who's not here, if anyone's here. But it's very heavy with the liturgy. It's the most solemn day of the year on God's calendar and in Judaism. It's sort of solemn for us as well as we remember our sin and the need for the atonement that Yeshua provided. But at the same time, for us, it's joyful because we know that our names are inscribed in the book of life. Not for any of our good or for any of our doing, but for His sacrifice and that free gift alone. So it's a bittersweet day for us. But before we get into things, I did want to bring up my son, Joshua, who just got back from his first ever mission trip. I have a feeling it will not be his last. But I want him to share some pictures and some thoughts, and then we'll kind of get back into the normal flow. Oh, and also announcements. So next Shabbat we'll be observing Sukkot, and the next day, on Sunday the 1st at 11 a.m., we'll be having a Sukkot celebration at Lewis and Elaine's home up in Boomer. If you don't know where that's at, make sure you get with them, and wherever they are, if they want to like raise their hand and wave around like a crazy Pentecostal, just go ahead. get people's attention so that they know. But it'll be 11 a.m. The church will be providing meat, I guess hamburgers, and there'll be a sign-up sheet. I believe it's up here. If not, you can get with Jana. And Jana, you can do your Pentecostal impersonation. She's usually in the back somewhere. And so we have an accurate count, so we don't have anyone going away hungry. And I think, the other announcement too is Hebrew class will resume. I think it's the second Shabbat in October, the 12th, I think, or 14th, or whatever that date is. We will resume Hebrew class. So Joshua, if you would come on up and share your experiences, please.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you that have been praying and that gave, and because it was you guys who sent me to Jamaica, so I'm just blessed to have you all as a family. But I want to share a little bit of the experience. It was definitely a huge culture shock and gives you, I come back and I'm really thankful for what I do have. But we flew into Montego Bay, and we traveled to Ocho Rios, which is only 14 miles away, but it was crazy traffic. But we got to stay at the women's center for the Teen Challenge in Jamaica, and
there was no women there.
Yeah, there's no women there. It was just men at the time. Yes. And then Sunday we went to church, and we traveled to 8 Mile, a city called 8 Mile, which the next town over, 9 Mile, is where Bob Marley was born. But this is a really rural area in Jamaica. There's no running water. They have to catch all their water from rainwater. And the homes it's just broken. But there's still so much like joy within the community. We went to church, and there's no air conditioning. There's just metal seats or like the lawn chairs. And there's like all these little fans all around, and they're squeaking all the time. So it's like, for us, it was kind of like a disturbance, but they didn't care, they didn't mind. And there's donkeys outside, pigs outside, just making all the farm animal sounds during the church service, but it was still a blessing. They didn't mind at all. And it was crazy. The pastor, they have these huge speakers, and they put one inside for all of us to hear, and they put one outside so the whole community could hear. And they're still preaching, and so the whole town could hear. But the music, it was insane. These people, they know how to worship God. They might not have a lot of things, but they were praising and worshiping God. Like, they started off with 2 songs, and like, oh, I guess it's over now. They prayed, and then they did 8 more songs, to the point where like, are they done yet? Are they done? But they don't give God a time frame. They just praise and worship until He's done. They're done with praising and worshiping Him. It was just eye-opening. And these people are so poor. They don't have, like, their ovens were outside. Some of them weren't covered. Like, they have a kitchen outside, but they still come to church in their Sunday best. All the women were dressed, and all the men wear button-down shirts with belts. It's crazy to see that in the middle of poverty, and or for us, these people have nothing, but they still give it all for the Lord. And then we got to leave, and we gave them a few soccer balls, and the kids, as soon as we mentioned the soccer balls, it was like a flock of kids were just following us to the van, and you could just see their faces brighten up. It was such a joy to be able to give them soccer balls. And by the time we're leaving, we're seeing all the soccer balls flying in the air, just with them kicking it and playing with it. It was amazing. Then we also got to go to the men's teen challenge, which was actually in Haddon Valley. It used to be in Kingston, but it moved to Haddon Valley. It's now on a farm. They have over like 90 pigs, 2,000 laying chicken, or 2,000 chickens laying eggs every day. So it's a huge responsibility they have, but that's how they make their money. And they have 3 greenhouses, and it's just amazing seeing their stories. And we got to, our pastor John, he got to minister to them, and we all got to sit down and talk with them and have lunch, and it was amazing. And then the next day we went to Kingston, which is like a war zone there. It's crazy to see, and this is like an urban area, but the people and the culture there is totally different. There's so much drug and alcohol and crime in this community, and we went to Trenchtown specifically, which is where Bob Marley grew up. But we talked to one of these kids, and we started talking to them like, who's your favorite footballer? Talking about soccer. And as soon as they said that, it's like everybody just loves soccer there. They came over and started talking to you. Oh, Ronaldo's the best player. Oh, Messi. You see their faces brighten up. Then we got to, some of them got to share their testimony to the kids, and it was awesome just seeing them interact with us. Then we went to this one town, this one school. It's a private school right across from these government funded housing. So it's like the projects, or it was a lot of these families were single mothers raising these kids, and all these, you could just tell it was like a war zone. But these kids coming into this school are being brought up with a father figure, but a Christ-like father figure. And a lot of these kids they're from 13 to 17, and a lot of these kids don't even know their alphabet, and they're being taught pretty much from like a baby, what a baby should be knowing. And the stories they told some of these kids, we only knew 2 of the kids' stories, and it was just like heartbreaking. One of the kids, they're in a summer night, and his best friend and him are on the street, probably about how far away my father is from me, and a stray bullet hits one of his best friend on a drive-by. They weren't the target, but he hits his best friend, and the blood splurts from off of his best friend, and it's on his face and his body. And this is a 13-year-old boy. Like, there's no way. Like, as an adult, I couldn't see myself living through that trauma, let alone a 13-year-old boy having to process his best friend. And there was another boy, 14-year-old, named Kevin, when his father, he got murdered from one of these gangs in Kingston. And now the same gang is reaching out to him, trying to recruit him. So he's in a really tough spot where if he doesn't want to join the gang, obviously, but if he doesn't, then he's going to be ending up the same way as his father. And it's just a lot of brokenness in these communities. And one of the boys, there's 3 boys in the back when they weren't really paying attention, and Pastor John could see it, and he would stare at them, not like a death stare, but as in love. And he finally caught attention to one of them, and he said, "Come here." And he came up to him, and he was just looking on the ground. He was like embarrassed or whatever. And he said, "Why weren't you paying attention?" And he still wasn't looking at him. He said, "Look at me in my eyes." He looked at me in his eyes. He said, weren't you paying attention?" He just shrugged it off. I don't know. And he just said, I forget the exact words, but he's like, "I know you've been going through rough times, and it's not been easy." And just the words he said to him, he just broke down crying. And we got a couple of guys to come pray over him, and he was bent over crying. And you could just see the tears from his face were just dripping onto the floor. There was a puddle on the floor just from tears of these boys going through so much trauma and all these emotions that they try to hide. But it was definitely a life-changing experience. The next time they go, they're trying to, they said it was like a shotgun approach. Obviously God will use, they said their testimony and got to talk with a couple people. But now the next time they're going to Jamaica, they're trying to raise up leaders in these, that's a native to Jamaica, that knows the culture, knows the patois, the slang, and that can actually impact these young men's lives and young women's life directly. There's a men's teen challenge and a women's teen challenge being started, but there's nothing for the kids yet. So that's the next mission that they have going. But it was just a wonderful part to be, it was an honor to be a part of that, this mission trip. And like he said, I know it's not gonna be the last, but I just wanna thank each and every one of you again for sending me and also for praying. It was such a blessing. I thank y'all.